Live from Lincoln Center in the heart of the Dallas Metroplex, this is Nip Talk, an honest and uncensored show about plastic surgery, health, beauty, and lifestyle, with your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and your co-host, entrepreneur and social media influencer Sarah Bennett. Now it's time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the topics everyone is talking about. It's time for Nip Talk.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Nip Talk. I'm your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann. For all those watching live and on recording, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. With me today is my co-host, Sarah Bennett.
Hi.
Sarah, how you doing?
How's it going?
In the box, as always, is our man, Travis. What's up, Travis?
What's going on? How's it going, y'all?
It's going good,
Good, really good.
So I'm gonna give away a little bit of a secret. You know, even though we had an episode out last week, we haven't been in the studio for a couple weeks because I was gone. So we recorded 2 episodes, and I have to say it's been a crazy 2 weeks. Like I got a bunch of things to unpack with you guys. But Sarah, do you have anything interesting happen the last 2 weeks, or?
Yeah, I think the weekend that we filmed, I did a CrossFit competition.
How did it go?
I finished 21 out of 42. So
that's good. Top
I'm
half.
Super average.
But no, that's top half.
Proud of
some
it.
of those people are like really serious. Like they're like
yes.
all into it.
I didn't even practice the workouts.
Yeah, you just went in.
Yeah,
like, in shape.
I just went in and just
did it.
That's a pretty
good effort.
Yeah.
Now, is that kind of where you place in these things, or do you sometimes do really higher? Or?
No, I only compete once a year.
Oh, okay.
Last time I competed like at RX, so I did like the elite version, and I was like dead last.
Oh, well, hey,
so
then you've made some huge progress.
I did scaled this time, so
okay.
Yeah, so
that's
it's better.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
And I didn't kill myself doing it.
Yeah, right.
So.
You're still here, right?
Yeah.
Travis, what about you, man? You had anything happen to you in the last couple weeks?
Nah, everything's been pretty regular on my end.
Pretty
I can't
regular?
even lie. Yeah, everything's been pretty regular on my side.
All right. Well, I got some stuff to tell y'all. This is like pretty interesting. So, I guess the first thing was, unbeknownst to me, I ended up going to a Slipknot concert.
I saw that.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And not only that, I was in the pit at a Slipknot concert, which. So I'm not a huge Slipknot fan, but my son is, and he really wanted to go, and it was like down there at Dos Equis Pavilion, which is like way downtown, and it was like during the week, and he's 17, but my wife didn't want him going by himself, and I was like, look, I know you want to see the concert, like if I was your age and my dad offered to take me, I would jump at the chance to go. I was like, I'll take you, and I was like, where do you want to get tickets? He's like, can we get them in the pit? And I'm like, oh man, like. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember back like in the day, but like the pit at a Slipknot concert was like a place where you went before you went to the hospital to like get stitches.
I've heard stories about the pit at concerts, like concerts that have pits in them.
Yeah.
I've heard all type of stories before, so I'm sure this is gonna be an interesting.
So I go online to get the tickets, and they had plenty of tickets in the pit, and it pops up this warning that says, "Warning." Something along the lines of, this is a place where you could potentially be injured. This is not a place for children.
That's never good.
I'm like, oh my God, what are we getting into? So we got tickets for the pit, and we went. And I have to say, I had a good time. I'm not a huge Slipknot fan. I couldn't have named one Slipknot song. Well, that's probably not true. There was one or two that I kind of remembered. But to me, it sounds a lot of the same. Like they're like heavy metal. Yeah, and
Don't they scream a lot?
There's a lot of screaming. They could have played the same song 15 times, and I'm not sure I've known the difference. But I will say you that they put on a great show. Like they are really into it. There's a lot of fire. There's explosions. There's people beating all kinds of drums. Like they really get into it, and the crowd gets into it. And so the pit was pretty safe. I mean, 10, 15 years ago. Might have been dangerous. We were kind of a little bit off to the side, but really probably only 4 rows from the stage. There wasn't really rows though, it was just people standing. Yeah. And a couple times the pit started to get a little aggressive and we'd have to back off. But overall we were fine. We didn't see anybody get mowed down or anything. But
yeah, I definitely remember the pit from when I used to go to Warped Tour and Edge Fest when I was a teenager.
Yeah, we probably did the same Edge Fest, yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, we had a great time, and it was really funny because like it was a really last minute thing. I bought the tickets the day of the show. Like I didn't really have any intentions of this like going down, but we had a good time. It was a good father-son thing. So, and then of course after that, I told you guys last time that I was going to Vegas.
Yeah.
So Vegas was good. We did catch Aerosmith, which was really cool.
Nice.
I've never seen Aerosmith, and I have to say that Steven Tyler is probably a little bit past his prime. Like he's in his 70s, but overall the concert was amazing. Like we really did enjoy it. And so probably the most interesting thing that happened to us in Vegas is my wife and I are foodies, right? We love like restaurants and we love like Asian food. And so I looked up like what's the most authentic, Asian restaurant or Japanese restaurant in Vegas. And I found this place, and like it talked about how the main chef had prepared food for the Emperor of Japan, and like all this crazy stuff. And they had this they had this like tasting menu, and it's like, well, it wasn't cheap, but we're on vacation, so I was like, all right, we're gonna do like the chef's tasting menu. I have to say that this was probably a little bit too authentic even for us, and like we are like super into like authentic food. Like first off, like no one in the restaurant spoke English, like it was all Japanese. Even the patrons were all Japanese except for us and one other couple. And so like even the people around us were speaking Japanese. So like it was this 10-course meal. And like the first thing they brought out was like this wheel of meats, and like they tell you what it is, but it's like in Japanese. And I'm like wait, does this swim in the ocean, or like
I would have not known what to do.
What kind of animal is this exactly? It was really good. Like we did enjoy it. We didn't know really what we were eating. But it was a lot, and so towards the end of it, like it's all raw, all raw food for the most part. Like even they had one beef dish, but it was like really, really rare. And like we were struggling a bit by the end because it's a lot of food. You don't know what you're eating. It's definitely like not anything you're used to. And the funniest part was they served what we thought was a dessert because we're never really sure because there was no like list of what you were getting. No one could tell you what you were getting. And then we're like, okay, we made it through because we were like getting kind of the point where like I'm not sure how far I can go with this.
Right.
And they brought out what we thought was dessert. Well, then they bring out this snake, like this big snake, like on a thing, like raw, like the head was cut off, but like the rest of it was there. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of place serves snake after dessert? Like what kind of like madness is this?
Oh my gosh, was it a cake?
No, it was really a snake, but like they didn't serve much for like I guess the next day or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
But like my wife and I had this like really kind of relief moment where we didn't have to like have the snake course, but which means probably one of the courses was snake, and it probably was actually an eel, to be honest. It looked like a snake, but it was probably an eel.
That is scary.
So the story gets even weirder. So like we were supposed to go see the Chainsmokers that night, and I was like starting to feel a little bit like
crazy.
Yeah, unwell, and like which is very rare for me. Like I can eat anything. Like I mean, I was that guy as a kid who was out like hunting and cooking, a squirrel or something I caught as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm not the guy who like gets sick, but I was like struggling a little bit, and like I told my wife, I was like, look, I hate to say it, but like I'm gonna have to bail on the Chainsmokers. Like I probably need to go back to the hotel. And of course, we'd been there for several days, and we had a good time, been out a lot, and I was like, I think maybe I'm just like getting worn down. So that night, like, actually I started running fever and really not feeling very well at all. And I didn't really sleep well, and so we got up the next day and I felt a little bit better. And then we were leaving. I was like, okay, well, I feel fine to go home. Just didn't, maybe felt just like little body aches, I thought maybe because I didn't sleep very well. Got home, next day I get up and I start coughing. And I'm like, that's weird, I had fever, now I'm coughing. Maybe it wasn't, I thought I had food poisoning. It's like, maybe I'm getting sick. I take a COVID test and I was COVID positive. Now, how ironic is it that the week after we do a segment on is the COVID pandemic over, that I get COVID,
and
right?
then my mom got COVID.
Your mom got COVID too?
Yeah.
Is she okay?
Yeah.
She's fine?
Yeah.
Good.
She's fine.
So,
and I had to take, me and my daughter had to take a COVID test.
Go take COVID test.
Yeah, and we're negative, even though my voice sounds horrible right now. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, like, I had the most mild episode of COVID ever. Like, I literally had about 48 hours of symptoms. I had fever, I guess body aches. I thought it was from not sleeping, and I had about 24 hours of like upper respiratory stuff, and then I was done. But I had to take, almost a week off. Like, I didn't work for like a whole week.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a bummer, but I just thought it was totally like, just thinking that it was food poisoning, and then just the irony of like, we just talked about the pandemic. But we did agree the pandemic wasn't over and we had to be careful.
Yeah, I got another notification on my phone about like another article about that. Like
About the pandemic not being over.
Yeah, about a rise of COVID coming this winter.
Well, the one thing I would say, is there anything to be learned about my misfortune? I do honestly believe that the reason my course was so mild is because I did get both vaccines and the booster. And so, looking at from like a doctor biological standpoint, the reason I probably had such high fevers that first night is like when I got that, finally that conversion, like it was like my body just like fighting, the virus. And that's why I felt so poorly. And they say that like if you have like a strong fever reaction, it means that you actually have like immunity to like whatever's coming after you.
Yeah.
And so instead of getting really sick, I mean I didn't even like take any medication. Like
Right.
the only reason I took a COVID test at all is I just didn't want to put anybody at risk.
Spread it,
Yeah, I didn't want to spread it, right? And I was like, well, because I'm seeing patients and I see some older patients, especially at my wound clinic and stuff. I was like, I'm gonna take a COVID test. And sure enough, it's positive. And then my wife got it. Unfortunately, she's still quarantined. She's probably watching. How's quarantine, babe? So anyway, it's been an interesting 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of back
Very
to normal.
eventful.
Very eventful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can do this where we don't meet up for 2 weeks. There's too much to talk about. All right, well, I want to move on to our first segment. This is our Plastic Surgery 411.
Yes.
And so the reason I got this topic is I was asked to talk about this on the radio this week to a radio station out in Ohio. And it is about height surgery. Now, have you ever heard of this height surgery, you guys?
I'm not gonna lie. The only time I've heard of it is one time. I think it was like on South Park. I
Oh,
think,
really?
Yeah,
South
that's what I was gonna say. I've heard it as like a joke.
Yeah, it was an episode of South Park. They had a height surgery.
The reason that we were talking about this is there's been a couple articles pop up about it lately, and that's how the buzz of this stuff comes up. And it was talking about how limb lengthening surgery is starting to boom. Now, boom is a relative term. When you compare the number of cases of this to like other plastic surgeries, like this is really, really small. Like there's something like 200 of these surgeries done worldwide in a year. Okay.
But it's like abnormal for them to be doing that many.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So this surgery's not new. Like limb lengthening surgery's been around for like 70 years. But in the past, how it was used is we would use it when someone maybe had a congenital defect where one leg was shorter than the other, and then you do the limb lengthening surgery to match them up. And that's been done for decades and decades and decades. But how this has become, more noteworthy or newsworthy is now people are doing it just because they want to be taller, which you can totally do. It works fine to do that. And so I was asked to talk about it at this radio station, and so I did some research and thought it'd be a good topic because I know you have a lot of male followers, and this is an overwhelmingly male operation.
Well, yeah, because it's like not cool if you're not like over 6 feet tall or something.
Exactly.
But like only like less than 2% of the male population
it's over
is
6
like,
foot.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like 100% of my friends. Like I was always the small guy. Like I looked at this and I was like, wow. I get how people might want to do this. I was really small in high school. I'm not a big guy now. I'm only like 5'9", but I was still growing like as a senior, so I was like pretty small. So like height's always been something. I'm like, oh man, I wish I was like 6 feet.
I am also vertically challenged.
We're both
5
vertically
foot
challenged.
even.
5 foot even?
Yeah.
Wow.
My mom, at one point, she took me to a hormone doctor to see if I was growing properly when I was a child.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, "You're too tiny."
Are your parents shorter or?
My dad's probably like 5'10", like he's
Okay.
not super tall, but my mom's like a normal height. She's like 5'5", 5'6".
Oh wow.
Like, that's a normal height
that's a little
for a
unusual.
girl. And my oldest sister is a normal height, but then me and then my other two sisters were all like 5'1" and 5 foot.
Yeah, genetics is like some people.
I do have to say, I am 6'1". Like I am a little taller.
Then you're like 2%.
You're lucky, Charles. I would love to be
guess
6'1".
so.
That's
I'm
awesome.
a little taller. I'm a little taller.
So, so this surgery can actually give you up to about 4 or 5 inches of height. Now, the kind of the bottom basement is you get 1 inch. Average is around 2 inches of height gain with the surgery, but you can get up to 4 or even more if they do more radical versions of this surgery. But the way the surgery is done, and there are several techniques, okay? So like I'm kind of explaining what's the most common way that this is done, and there are other things out there, but the way this is being done mostly these days is they take a big metal rod and they put it in your femur, which is the long bone, and there's a picture of it up on the screen. And you can see the rod right there in the middle of the femur bones, and the things on the end are the nails holding it in place. And you see right in the middle where like the bone kind of stops. That's basically where they break the bone, and then what they do is over the course of about 3 months, they start to pull that bone apart. And they pull it apart at about 1 to 2 millimeters per day. So really, really slow. And what happens is the bone starts to grow in between that space. And although it doesn't really show up there, there actually is bone material.
Yeah, I can see it better on the bone.
You can see it better on the right side.
Yeah.
But the thing is bone takes a while to become mineralized and show up. Like when you fracture, like it looks weird for a while. And then over time, that'll fill in with bone. So what they do is over the course of 3 months, they slowly stretch those bones apart, which, if you stretch the long bones of your leg, that's every, centimeter you gain or inch you gain is an inch you're going to gain in height. And then after the 3 months, and 3 months is just average, it can be shorter or even longer, they go and they pull that rod back out. It's like a separate surgery. And then, of course, there's kind of a rehabilitation period after that. So, kind of the take home of this for people who are thinking, oh, geez, I'm going to run out and have this done. This is a huge commitment type surgery. Because, like, for example, like not to bring up things you've done in the past, but that some surgeries, like cosmetic surgeries, are pretty easy. Like, breast augmentation or whatever, you go in, you have it done, like, a few days later, a week later, like, you feel like you're totally fine.
Yeah.
A surgery like this, you're looking at the very minimum 3 to 6 months before you're kind of back to normal.
Well, I just know that breaking a femur is a very serious.
Have you broken a bone?
No, but I was a gymnast, so I know, like, whenever
Sure.
if you heard a girl that had broken her femur, you were like, wow, it takes a lot.
Like when you're surgically breaking that, it's more better. Controlled than if you break it on the pommel horse. That's one of the things, right? The pommel horse.
Well, that's for guys, but yeah.
Oh, there's not a pommel horse for girls?
No.
Is it called something different?
No, girls don't have that event.
What?
Yeah.
Rip off. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, you're looking at 3 to 6 months of like hardcore kind of recovering from this operation. Yeah. And the other issue is cost. Now, if you are born with like one shorter leg, like your insurance will cover that. But like if you're like me, 5'9" guy wanting to be 6 foot tall.
Just like, doing it to get more swipes on that dating app.
That's right, yeah. To get the extra, is it left or right is the good one?
I don't know, I don't have one.
I've never had
either.
One. My friend, where's Robert? He's the one that he can tell me. But anyway, if I like rolled in and want this surgery done, I gotta pay out of pocket and get ready for sticker shock. All right, what do you think a surgery like this costs? Give me an idea.
$6,000 to $10,000.
Travis?
I will say $15,000.
Try $100,000.
Wow.
Up to
goodness.
$200,000.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So you're talking about something that's 10 to 20 times more expensive than like your run-of-the-mill cosmetic surgery. And the reason for that is because, one, you can't do this in an outpatient surgery center like I operate in. Like, this has to be done in a little bit bigger facility, okay? So there's that cost. But then there's the cost of like those surgical rods. Like, those things are insanely expensive. And, insurance not paying for them. And then, of course, the surgeons doing them are going to charge you like an arm or a leg.
And then you have to pay for physical therapy.
Right, then you got the therapy, you got the time off work. I mean, that's not even including like that. Then you got the second surgery to take the rod out. So you're looking at a massive, massive cost to do this.
And then with the results of it, so are these basically?
That's it. Yeah, there we go.
Wow, so it
gives
you a few
what's wrong with their
weeks.
face?
So they blurred him out, like, because this guy didn't want, a lot of people don't want anyone to know because there's a stigma. Now, the next one, you can see it more clear. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's definitely a difference. Like, that guy gained like a solid, 3 to 4 inches right there.
Yeah,
like,
you do definitely get some height differential.
Yeah.
The thing about it, though, I think being tall is kind of like overrated. You have to fit into like small.
That's
like,
what tall people say.
No, I'm telling you, it's facts. It's facts. Like any car that I get into, my legs are always like touching my chest. Like it's always the hardest to sit in the back seat. It's terrible. I can never drive like in a Mustang or anything like that, and I like Mustangs.
I will tell you, Travis, like there are times when I like being a little bit shorter. Like when I was on the airplane just recently, I was like, man, I'm so glad that I'm not like super tall. Like, cause I was kind of cramped, like on the airplane. I was like, man, I feel bad for like really
going
tall
to concerts or like comedy shows. The seats be so like close together. Even like basketball games and stuff like that, like it gets like really like hectic. Like my knee sometimes is in somebody's neck when I'm in a basketball game.
I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, you're like a rich person saying how bad it is to like have money. Like,
I'm sure a lot of men are probably like, yeah.
I will tell you about the concert. Like I do a lot of shows where it's like standing remotely, and then I'm like, oh man, I wish I was just a little bit taller.
Well, I'm just trying to give you the other side. I'm trying to give you the other side.
I know, the devil's advocate. I appreciate it, Travis.
I was at a concert and I was saying like, oh, I can't see anything, and some dude was like, here, go on my shoulders, and I was like,
some random person.
Yeah.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
You all acted offended. Did you do it? Yeah, I did it.
Yeah. I was like, what? It was just funny.
Well, the other thing to consider about this is the risk, okay? Because, you know, we've talked about risks of surgeries, like surgeries like I do, which for the most part are very, very low. So I pulled up some studies on this procedure because, you know, this has been done for a long time, more recently, you know, as cosmetic, but for functional, it's been done for a long time. So the biggest study I pulled up showed a complication rate of 29%.
Yikes.
That's pretty high. That's like, you know, almost 1 in 3 patients. Now, some of those complications are very mild. It's not all, you know, big problems. But the other thing to consider is, you know, you are basically getting inside of your bone. And if you were to get an infection on the inside of your bone, I mean, you're looking at like a really serious complication.
Yeah.
Like you would need like weeks of IV antibiotics. You might have to be hospitalized. And then there's a chance your insurance may not pay for that because you did it from doing cosmetic surgery.
Right.
Now I found like if I do a surgery, and it's very, very rare, but sometimes somebody will have to, you know, get a procedure, like maybe a ultrasound or something after a surgery. Most of the time insurance will cover that, but it is getting in a time period where insurance are looking a little bit more, you know, deeply into, well, why is this person having this? And they found that you know, had this big surgery for a cosmetic reason, your insurance may not pay for it, and then you could be on the hook for like another $100,000 to get over some complications. So,
is it worth it?
I mean, so like, I guess, you know, I'm a good person to ask. I mean, I'm not like short. I'm like dead average, right? 5'9" is like the dead average height of a human male, you know, in the world. And I think in the United States, it's a little bit on the lower side, but. You know, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I remember when I was young, I always wanted to be taller. But I mean, I've done okay. You know, I wasn't going to be a professional athlete anyways.
I mean, you're a doctor. I think you're doing okay.
I mean, I'm doing all right. And so, you know, I don't feel like it really affected me from a standpoint of, you know, social life either. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I personally wouldn't do it. Now, maybe if I was 5'4", I might sing a different tune. I don't know.
Well, and I was thinking about like, if I were to ever do that, like how it would affect me, like afterwards, like would I still be able to do CrossFit?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. You know, barring an unforeseen complication, if you have the surgery done, like once you're healed, which may take 6 months or a year, you can pretty much do what you want.
Okay.
You know, what's interesting, somebody asked me this on the show the other day, is like, have any athletes done this? You know, to try and get an edge, and to my knowledge, no, at least not professional athletes, but.
Maybe it was that guy that looked like a marble. He was an athlete, professional athlete. Didn't want his identity.
The one who blurred his face out?
Yeah.
Right.
He looked like a marble.
He's a famous basketball player.
That's the quote of the show. He looks like a marble.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, I thought that was a really interesting topic. You know, I'd heard about this. I didn't realize it was becoming kind of popular for people to do it as a cosmetic procedure. If you're interested in it, there's a couple places in North America you can have it done. Las Vegas has a place that's doing it, in Montreal, I think, in Canada.
Wow.
There's not a lot of places like you can't. I'm pretty sure no one in our location, Dallas-Fort Worth, doing it, which is strange.
Does it cosmetically?
What's that?
They don't do it cosmetically.
Not cosmetically, no.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. I'll look into that. If I find anything different, I'll let you know. In case Travis wants to be like 6'7".
Yeah.
I think I will pass.
I think it's a good idea, Travis.
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
All right. Now, understand that you want to bring up something. And I want to chime in on this, too, because I was looking at this, and it's very interesting to me. But
so do you remember back in the 90s when, like, little bitty skinny eyebrows were
I do remember the
found?
90s, yeah.
Yeah.
And you got this from an article, right?
Yeah, Huffington Post.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Huffington posted an article about this just recently, about skinny 90s. Now, this is my time frame. I mean, not to, like, make myself sound old, but
I grew up in it, too.
The 90s was like
watching my sisters.
Yeah. But that was my stomping grounds, and I remember this. But yeah, so the 90s.
Yeah, so it's just a skinny little eyebrows. I remember my sisters, like Gwen Stefani.
There's our girl, Gwen Stefani.
My sisters would stare in the mirror for hours plucking their eyebrows to get them to look skinny like that. And right now, I don't like them at all.
And what's really funny is we were just talking about this, I guess, a few weeks ago when we were talking about fashion and, like that look of the 90s just in general is kind of coming back.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the jeans, like the clothes, I mean, we're seeing a lot more flannels.
Graphic tees.
Graphic tees, like, are coming back. And so...
Cargo.
I mean, the cargo never left from me. I love cargo, man. All those pockets, I mean, come on. But yeah, we're starting to see it, not just in clothes now, but in hair, in hair, like hairstyles, like that. I think that was called the wolf cut, right? That Gwen Stefani. Throw that Gwen Stefani pick back up. Isn't that the wolf cut where you get like the kind of like the comes out on the side and it's kind of like wild? Yeah, that looks. The skinny brows look good with that.
Yeah,
so
no, it's definitely a look. Like, I like Angelina Jolie's eyebrows, but those look more natural. Gwen Stefani's were definitely, she used an eyebrow pencil.
Yeah, but there's no way that's not a manicured eyebrow there on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But it's still trendy, but it's not like
throw Gwen back. Let's see Gwen one more time. Can we see Gwen again?
Yeah.
See, I think that looks good though, man.
Those are drawn on though.
No, they're not that bad. I mean, they are. Maybe it's just her. Like, I mean, to me, it's like, she's so striking anyway. And then those eyebrows, it's just like, I'm making my eyebrows like a focus point.
She's rock and roll. And then Angelina Jolie is more like classic.
True. Okay, I could go with that. Travis, what do you think?
So my mind like goes to like, can a man rock skinny eyebrows?
I don't know. Like,
can a dude rock skinny eyebrows? No,
probably not. I'd say probably not.
I'm gonna come next show. I'm coming with the skinny eyebrows.
All right, so we're gonna talk about how you can do it, right?
Right. So the best way to do this is to use like one of those little micro face shavers.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
you're not supposed to pluck because that damages your hair follicle.
Right. Now, I do know that. Yeah. Like, if you are gonna shape your eyebrows, actually plucking, which I think many people do, even myself.
Yeah,
like
but I mean, I do that, but I'm not going for a skinny look. I'm going for like a more natural look.
This is totally a different situation because, I mean, if I get like a straight eyebrow, like I don't care if I mess up that follicle. I'm gonna pluck that thing out. But in this instance, you're actually removing hairs that you may want to have back one day.
Yeah, because especially since this is just a trend. Like, in 5 more years, bushy eyebrows will be back.
The bushy eyebrows are back. It's caterpillar season, baby.
Yeah. So
caterpillar
there are girls rocking unibrows right now.
Man, I don't know about that. Well, and the other thing too is, I remember I was actually looking at that article. Like, it was actually recommending the first time you do it, you shouldn't do it yourself.
Right. Yeah. I would never try to do that.
You wouldn't?
No, because
do you have like somebody that... Well,
my sisters. Because my sisters were all 90s girls and teenagers. So they were all plucking their eyebrows trying to get them that skinny. And my sister, one of my sisters, till this day regrets doing it because her eyebrows won't grow.
Really?
Like where they're supposed to. And like my mom, my sisters have all messed with their eyebrows to the point that
they're kind of messed up now?
Yeah, and that's why I have never messed with my eyebrows.
So, I mean, there are kind of like off topic a little bit, there are like serums and stuff that for your eyebrows that can help them grow. In fact, I remember the article was saying that, it's good to use them, especially if you're like, doing the shaving. And the other thing I remember it said is if you're going to shave them, that you always want to shave from the bottom.
Okay.
Because like if you shave from the top, like it can affect your ability to make that peak.
Right.
And then you can end up having eyebrows that don't look right for your face.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I honestly, like, I kind of like that look. I think also too, like from a plastic surgery, facial aesthetics kind of, way to look at it. I mean, someone who might rock these, I think, and of course Angelina Jolie was up there, but I think people with thinner lips will look better with a thinner eyebrow.
For sure.
There are certain facial structures that I think could make that skinny eyebrow really pop versus maybe look out of place. I mean, if you have Angelina Jolie's lips and then like really skinny eyebrows like Gwen Stefani had, it may be a little bit out of proportion, but.
My favorite person that's doing this right now is Doja Cat.
Yeah.
We don't have a picture of her, but She has been going bananas about this.
One of the viewers on YouTube, they said his name is DG Texas. He said, speaking of eyebrows, Whoopi Goldberg has 0 eyebrows. So I didn't know Whoopi Goldberg didn't have eyebrows.
I've never noticed.
I wonder if she just like went like overboard.
Oprah can do anything she wants though. She's Oprah.
Was
Oprah?
Whoopi? Was Whoopi or Oprah?
I was gonna say, yeah, Oprah can though. You are not wrong.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, Whoopi, not Oprah. I can't imagine Oprah without any eyebrows. Like,
I didn't even know.
Some people, don't they like shave their eyebrows and then get them like tattooed? No, not
tattooed.
Yeah, they like tattoo them on. I think some girls do that too.
Microbladed. I don't even know what microbladed is.
That's like a little technique where like they go through them and I think it like trims them and also like shapes them. I haven't done it. I know of people who did do it, but I honestly I'll have to look that technology.
What about like threading? Is that the same thing?
No, threading's different. That's where you're like, where you're tightening things. But,
okay.
But I don't know. I'm gonna have to say, like, I mean, I think that the style in the '90s was, I think it was pretty hot. I mean, the '80s and '90s, there was some style there. Like I mean, maybe I'm just like an old person, but I feel like, you know, you don't see that as much anymore. Like, I know for sure I don't see it in my kid. Well, I know my daughter has, you know, a little bit of style, but, you know, like, but, you know, like the kids today, like, you don't see that as much. But I like that things are, like, coming back around, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just from and maybe some of it's nostalgia, but also, like, I just like when people, like, really kind of, like, you know, think about how they're putting themselves together.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just one of those people, like, because I was those people back then.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, I wasn't doing my eyebrows, but, you know, like, of course, the hair and, like, all of that, the clothes, and, yeah, I think it's kind of cool. So, are you going to try it? Now, what do you think? Do you like this look for yourself, or no?
No, I'm definitely more of a natural. Like, I've never gotten my eyebrows waxed or any of that because of my sisters. Growing up with all of my older sisters always messing with their eyebrows and my mom. And I'm like, no, I'm never getting my eyebrows waxed. If I kind of like, if I see a stray hair I don't want there, it's gone. Yeah, I just pluck it.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye out and see if I can pick out more people with the 90s skinny brows. I like them, man. I think they're cool.
I don't mind them as long as they're not like drawn on. I feel like only celebrities can really do that.
To draw on,
Yeah, because then they do all the crazy stuff.
We may talk about them, but they can get away with it.
Yes.
All right, well, good stuff. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking about that segment. All right, so moving on to our last segment. This one's just kind of an interesting one. We were talking about earlier how I work at the wound clinic, I think. Weren't we mentioning that earlier?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So this is a picture of my wound clinic, and I'm actually really proud of this wound clinic. This is Horizon Medical Center. It has inpatient, outpatient wound care. To me, it's the best wound care center in the Metroplex. I mean, part of it's because, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I do run it, and being a plastic surgeon allows me to treat wounds in ways that most wound centers cannot, you know, because they have to farm out things for surgery, for debridements, skin grafts, flaps, and plus our staff there is just excellent. And so the reason I'm talking about the wound clinic is I get to see some really interesting stuff there, and one of the questions I always get is, what is the craziest thing that you've ever seen? And then I have to kind of think, you know, because I've been doing medicine now for 20 years. I mean, I've seen a lot of wild stuff, and a lot of it really is not fit for public consumption. I mean, some of the craziest things I saw was when I did trauma surgery, you know, back before I got into plastics.
Yeah. You showed a really crazy video one time about like somebody's arm that it was broken for forever.
Okay, and that is exactly what we're about to watch.
Oh my God.
Did you know that I was going to do that
one?
No. So this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And before you roll it, let me just tell you a little bit about it. So I saw this lady at my wound clinic. I was seeing her for something else. It wasn't for her arm, but I just happened to notice it. And I asked her if she would let me take a little video of it. I told her I'd do these little things and, you know, talk about medical issues. She's like, yeah, absolutely. She was really nice. And so she basically had a broken arm for 10 years that she never got fixed. And it's pretty wild. So, Travis, roll that video.
The lady had a fracture of her humerus, which is her upper arm bone, 12 years ago that was never fixed. It should be like that. And you can see here, this is the end of the humerus, but her distal arm is fully functional. Wiggle your fingers. Can you see that? So fortunately, she is going to be able to get this fixed soon, but this is definitely one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in somebody. Thank you.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm like, how is she functioning?
So she just kind of compensated, you know. I asked her, I was like, okay, well, first off, what happened? She said, I fell and broke my arm. And I was like, well, what did they do? Like, well, they put me into like a cast, and they said it was going to heal. And then when I came out of the cast, it didn't heal. And I was like, okay, well, then what? And they said, well, I was supposed to have surgery. I'm like, okay. Well, and then I think she just didn't follow up, you know? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, she was a little bit of a different lady. Like, yeah. I mean, it sounds wild when I tell you that she just didn't follow up, but that's really what happened because, you know, something like that, although not very common, it can be fixed.
It's crazy what the human body can do, I guess.
Well, it's crazy how she compensated for it because basically she had 3 joints in her arm, and when you go to like get up like this, like your body's not expecting there to be a joint in your upper arm. Well, of course she had that, so she had to compensate for it. But she did it. She lived by herself actually, and was able to have a pretty normal life. With the arm like that. And yeah, it's just wild. What's wild is like that she really had no symptoms from it. Like her hands worked totally normal. Now, every once in a while I saw her, she would, kind of move her arm around a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it blew my mind. And I told her, I was like, look, I can get you into a doctor to get this fixed. And she's like, oh, well, I actually just saw an orthopedic surgeon. And she was supposed to get that fixed, I think, something like 6 months after I took that video. And then I never did see her again. I wanted to do like a follow-up video, and say, oh, how do you like, your arm now that's fixed? And
I think the reason why it's so like crazy to me is because I broke my arm right above,
same place.
Almost right above my elbow.
Yeah.
So
I wish I had an X-ray of her. Now I pulled up an X-ray of something very similar. Yeah.
That's pretty much how I broke my arm.
Really? Yeah, so that's the humerus, and that is the exact same thing as what she has. And the way you can tell is you can see like that capsule around the 2 bone fragments, like it's kind of formed because it almost makes like another joint, not like a true joint, but like you get this fibrous tissue around those 2 ends, and it kind of functions like a joint. And yeah, it's pretty wild. Like of all the things I've seen, that's one of the craziest. Even if you get on the internet and you look up, like trying to find stuff like that, you can't find. I found one other video, like in all of my searching, of something that was similar.
Yeah.
Now maybe there's orthopedic surgeons out there who have like know where that kind of stuff is, but I couldn't find it. Like that was some of the craziest stuff I'd ever seen.
That's intense. I just like I had pins in my arm, and they had to pull them out at the end. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, did they not do that for her? I wonder, to make sure that her bone
I mean, who knows correctly? What happens?
That's insane.
I mean, you don't know if she had like a bad doctor, which that does happen, or if she like didn't follow. Maybe she came out of. I mean, I've had people cut off their own casts, and then have to go back to surgery. I mean, who knows? Like what happened? And she like,
I guess if it doesn't bother her, then
she was an older lady, and she's like, yeah, I just never went back to get it fixed. I'm like, really? It's like pretty bad. But anyway, yeah, supposedly she got it fixed. I wish I could see her again. That'd be great. I'd love to like get a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
But pretty wild stuff. All right, Travis, any questions?
Yes, indeed. We do. We have a couple.
Okay.
So one person asked, does insurance cover height surgery? So
height
I think
surgery.
you kind of touched on it earlier, but does
insurance
cover height surgery?
Only if like the issue is like some kind of congenital deformity. Like there are certain deformities of the leg bones, and so there are people out there who might be born with like short femurs or have some issue with like the shape of the femur. And in that instance, yeah, you could get it covered. But like if you're just a shorter person that's otherwise normal and you want to have that done, it's going to be out of pocket. Yeah, and it's going to be pricey. Like, I mean, really pricey. Yeah.
Okay.
House pricey.
That makes sense.
Yeah, house price. Like, yeah, you get another mortgage pricey.
Definitely makes sense. Another question, is it best to wait until done growing for height surgery?
Yeah, I would say with any surgery, and I get this question, how I get this question mostly is like when girls have very large breasts at a young age, and like when do you do a breast reduction surgery? This is the same thing, are you gonna wait till people are done growing before you start to alter them? I would say that the answer to that question is, yeah, it's best to wait until you're done. Now, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. If you were having that surgery done for more of an issue that was like, congenital and like you're not able to walk, then you might have it done before you're done growing, you know, because fixing it, you know, would give you more function, right? Yeah. But if it's something that's purely aesthetic, like you just want to be taller, then yeah, I mean, wait till you're done growing. Who knows? I mean, I was growing up until I was 19 years old, so yeah, you know, I mean, definitely it's probably best to wait. So
I would
absolutely. Right. I think that's all the questions that we have on my end.
All right. Well, it's a good show today. I thought we covered some really cool topics. And for all those watching, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe and leave us a comment as well. We'd love to know what you're thinking. And we'll see you next week back here on Nip Talk.